source who express them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
You know something, I'm not sure that you're aware, but you're back with Dave and Mecky's Shiny Side Out on freedomslips.com, on the #1 listener-supported talk radio on the net. So push on the interwebs. So push the donate button or subscribe to the archives for about $5 a month. I think it's still currently free, but subscribe via Patreon to the station and support it. Or you know what, you can buy yourself some merchandise, which is really cool. And there's a profit that goes to the station, but the profit is there to support the station. You get something in return. Not only do you get something in return if you just listen to it and subscribe normally to the archives, which is what I expect that you would get in return, was your enjoyment and learning something, hopefully. And there's plenty of hosts to choose from. There's some great shows out there. But what you can do is you can get an EMP-proof thumb drive, a USB stick that's EMP-proof. So if, we get an EMP, you get an EMP or a coronal mass ejection, a CME. Once electricity is returned, not that it, I have to say, not that I don't think it will, but if it was a local event, surely, that EMP-proof thumb drive with all of survival documents on it is going to get you somewhere. If you have a metal garbage tin and you have some technology in it for in case the rest of the world goes down, that will still be good. It's a Faraday cage. That's what Faraday cages do. They protect from EMPs, Mecky. And if you don't know it, all the servers out there that you buy, that you put in racks in data centers, they are all protected from EMP. Their cases protect the insides. They're not made out of plastic. These are made out of metal. And the metal won't allow the other stuff to go on the inside from the outside. Anyway, so maybe you want to buy a 75,000 seed pack. You could do that if you wanted. If you're in the US, I think there's some nice hunting knives and things you can also get. So look, make sure you understand your customs laws and read the instructions carefully as you're making your order. Very important. But look, do you know what? Having said all that, we would like to remind you, this is show number 498. We're concluding, hopefully, the ET question, A Rational Approach, part 11. So if you've only caught this one, there are 10 other prior parts, which you may find very interesting. It'll certainly catch you up. And I have to say thank you for listening to Revolution Radio. And do you know what? I think we can get on with the show. This is the second hour, by the way.
This is the second hour. Thank you, Dave. Awesome. As always, look, we are coming to the end of this particular show cycle, where we have discussed, I guess, in detail most of the things we wanted to. And the key thing, though, to take away here is, I think, that number one, or key things, right? And we're going to discuss this in detail as well. Number one, the UFO phenomenon, or UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena, as they're called now, because we can't call UFOs. That would be legitimizing something completely illegitimate. We can't do it. No, but essentially, it is no longer a question as to whether or not the phenomenon is real. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't know what it is, so we're not saying it's this or it's that, but it does occur. It is not a weather balloon. It is not a
migrating
geese.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not Venus.
It's not Venus. It's not swamp gas. Yeah. It's not the Aurora Borealis. It's none of these things. It is something that we don't know what it is.
Borealis in your kitchen at this time of year.
Yes. Well, the weather conditions are unique. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. That's true. No, but ultimately, though, so you can sit back and say, okay, it is a real thing. We just have to now figure out what it is, right? Is it in fact, are these craft piloted by extraterrestrials, right? Are they interdimensional carriages,
or have they always been inhabitants of this planet?
Exactly, right? Is this a civilization or civilizations that we're sharing planet with, which I believe is the case, in fact, since ancient times. But or is it a time travel phenomenon, or is it something else completely?
Oh, time travel
that we can't. But it could be something that we haven't mentioned. I mean, the thing is this: we don't know. We don't.
Is it a District 9 thing where they just ended up launching their escape pods onto a class? Was it Class 9 planet or whatever?
M-class planet.
M-class planet, right? Thank you.
There you go.
Star Trek.
A
Class M planet, right? And they've been living out their life here with the same tech for as long as they can remember.
Yeah, look, we don't know, right? Now, what I can tell you, though, is it is important that we understand these mysteries. Even in the larger view of the hypothesis, which stipulates very clearly that we are living in a construct, in a very specific construct, and we are most likely kept here against our will. But that's something for show number 500. It is still, this world is as real as they come, right? Now, it's not all there is to reality, but as far as we're concerned, being here, all the choices we make, the lives we lead, have a deep impact upon our essence. Now, this is where it gets a bit metaphysical, and I understand if you switch off, but ultimately, I believe, and not just me, but many other people believe the same thing. We are much more than meets the eye. We are not just a lump of carbon and H2O, water, right? It's not just that. We are a multi-dimensional creation or being, if you will. And right now we are expressed as a four-dimensional shadow in this particular reality. Is this our home? I don't think it is. Should we be somewhere else? I think we should be. But all of these phenomena, they all point in the same direction. They've all come to collectively point to form the hypothesis of this. And we're not the first people to say this, right? But you have to ask yourself, why are all these things happening? I mean, we're living in a universe that is completely inexplicable, right? We really can't explain. We don't know. If you're honest with yourself, if you're scientists out there, any scientists out there, there's some things we know. We know some math and we know some physics and chemistry. We know all of that. We can tell you certain things. You know, like two hydrogen and one oxygen molecule will give you water. That we know that. That's the thing, right? We know that hydrogen is the most abundant element in the universe, as far as we can tell. We know that, right? We know that there are photons and electrons and all kinds of particles. We know that as well, right?
And we know there's an EM spectrum.
Yeah,
we've discovered Newtonian physics, Einsteinian, if that was the word, physics. We understand that there is a crazy world now that we're getting closer to, the quantum world, right?
Yeah,
and this is kind of where we're at. We're at this. I don't know. It's like a cul-de-sac, still without all the answers.
But the truth is this, right? The more questions we answer, the more questions are opened up to us. So we have not reached the end of knowledge. There was back in Victorian times, there was this idea that eventually we will have all the knowledge we will ever have, and then our head will be full and we can go home. Well, we know everything there is to know. And the truth is, the more
in
fact, the more we explore, the more mysterious it all becomes, and the less sensible, at least to our understanding.
Okay, I gave a really good example of that today. So the Newtonian physics, where we just understand projectile motion and gravity, that was great.
Yeah.
I've got to be honest with you. If that was the extent of our intelligence and we never got smarter, ever, we'd still be happy.
Yes.
Because it was a simple time Yeah, sure. We wouldn't have probably. Oh, you could still go to the moon with Newtonian physics. You could.
Yep.
Because the
Yes, of course you could.
Einsteinian physics doesn't kick in until you go really fast. So that was a nice time. You add the crazy Einsteinian physics into this world, and now I see us, Meki, in this place where we don't have the tech yet to test all of it.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of theories because we haven't proven it.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. And then we've got the quantum physics world, which makes no sense to us at all.
None.
It doesn't make sense why it does what it does. But all the time, Meki, we're looking for smaller and smaller breakdown of what makes up this matter that we're constructed of. All the time we're doing that, and all the time we're looking out further away from where we are, trying to work out what's out there to understand where we are and who we are and what we do. We're ignoring all of the most important things that, well, the government told us to ignore. So all of the individuals, and this is my segue, all the individuals around the world who have witnessed something in the air, all the pilots, all the military people, the school children at Westall and in Africa with exactly the same messaging. Yeah. All of the highest scientists that have been plucked into secret, unacknowledged programs, the UAPs, because they had to give it the same name as something they already had hidden. So that would go away. They've drowned it in terminology. All of those people who were whisked away to research and do things, I'm tapping my nose secretly. All of that to then still say the government's messaging up until this year was that we're all kooks. If you've seen something, you're mistaken. If you believe in it, you're unhinged. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Only finally caving in at what seems like the last minute to me that oh look, all those things, like the Washington flyover, remember that? The Washington flyover at night when it was on two different nights. Yeah. Yes. Where they kind of just talked that away. Oh yeah.
Mass hallucination.
Yes. Mass
hysteria. Yes.
And what was the other one, Meki, at the beach in LA?
Oh yeah.
With the weather balloon and they shot at it with the anti-aircraft and it just flew back out to sea again.
It's our logo. The attack on LA is the famous.
That's right. Battle of LA. That's right. Los Angeles. Yep.
Yeah, and they shot at it, etc., etc. Had really powerful searchlights at it, and you wonder why we don't get more into it. Why don't we go investigate deeper? And the answer, of course, is because no one wants us to. The parasites want us to look the other way, because the more we understand about this reality, right, the more likely we are to be able to escape it. And we'll talk about that in the show 500 show cycle. But all of these things, they're real enough. I mean, tens of thousands of people, like Dave has just outlined, have seen things. Thousands of people have touched things. And a small handful of people had even deeper experiences. Okay? There are places on the planet that are very strange, very odd. And I know this is my favorite one. Is the Skinwalker Ranch.
Here he goes.
It's now... Yeah, well, look, it's
there's going to be a drinking game, Meki. There's going to be a drinking game where every time you mention it, they've got to have a shot. Yeah.
Baktoon. But there are other places like Skinwalker Ranch. The only reason I like this one, Baktoon, I know, right? For your tones. But ultimately, it's the only place that has been investigated as much as it has. And now we are actually privy to the investigations as part of this TV show that is running. But there are other places in the world which are just as mysterious and just as strange, which simply haven't had the money invested in them, at least officially, and we don't have any insight into the investigations at all. And there's still a lot of government research, and not just government, but also now obviously private corporations and so forth, that undertake these research or these research items which we just don't know about, right? We're not privy to it. And there's a lot of knowledge still hidden away from us. There are sections of libraries which are completely locked away from the general public. That is not. You can't go there. You can not for love or money. You will never get access to it, right?
Unless the Vatican,
a certain level. Yeah, exactly. Unless you're a certain level of the power structure, you just can't go there. You can't know it.
What about the back rooms of the Smithsonian?
Yeah. So remember the Indiana Jones movie? I think it's the first one. We have these huge warehouses with crates. Right, and I believe that's exactly how it is. I think there are these massive warehouses, right, somewhere underground or whatever, which have all these crates of stuff, thousands and thousands of crates of
which
things
is the real
that
truth.
Don't fit the narrative. Yeah. Yeah. So we've been sold a certain narrative here, right? And the UFO phenomenon, it doesn't fit into that narrative. It just doesn't. Now, though, interestingly enough, and maybe that's because we're coming to Endgame, it has been acknowledged. No, look, guys. It is real. It's a real phenomenon. You don't have to worry about it anymore, but we just now have to figure out what it is. And it is really interesting that the governments for such a long time would I guess they collude together with some key scientists and key leaders of the industry or in military industrial complex to keep us in the dark, and in certain areas still keep us in the dark. There's a really great book, Hunt for Zero Point. If you haven't read it, you must read it. It's written. I forget the author's name. I do apologize, but he works for Jane's Defense Weekly as a writer, and he was just given the story to follow up and look, is there anything to Zero Point? Is there anything to anti-gravity research, etc., etc.? And the answer is, the conclusion that it comes to in this book, yes, there is. Absolutely, there is. The skunk works,
Nick
and
Cook.
all the other things. Nick Cook, thank you. Exactly right, Nick Cook. So if you get your hands on that book, please do. It is actually a really good read, and it's quite enlightening. And it comes from a solid journalistic and, in fact, military technical background as well, because Jane's Defense Weekly is essentially a military journal in the UK. Now, and so there are things happening that we, human beings, are doing, which is locked away from our knowledge. That's a fact. Well, we all can agree to that, surely, right? That there's certain things going on which we simply are not privy to. We just don't know on purpose. So governments keep things secret. Corporations, I believe, do the same thing. They keep things secret from their competitors and from the public so they can make more money out of it once it comes out. So that's another thing. But there are other layers and levels of secrecy beyond that. I'll give you a simple example. Nikola Tesla, his research, or some of his research, is still not accessible to the public. It just isn't.
Yeah.
Are there scientists that we don't know about? Are there scientific breakthroughs we never heard of? I mean, Nikola Tesla
Absolutely.
is quite, he's quite famous, even though you might, until recently, before I think maybe 20 years ago, you might never have heard of Nikola Tesla.
There was not even an entry in our school books.
No, but now we know. He was working for Edison. Oh, okay. Oh, he invented this. Oh, he did that. Oh, okay. And every time a mad scientist is depicted in the old black and white movies in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, it was a parody of Nikola Tesla. Right?
That's right.
It's just how it is. And he certainly had amazing breakthroughs, right? Alternating current is one of them, but there are many other things he thought he could do,
he made no money off it, and it's used by everybody everywhere. Alternating current, AC. Yeah. It's a lot safer too. And now the thing is this: if we had followed his research, right, for argument's sake, let's just play that through for a second. But if we had invested money in him and he had had his way, we would no longer have cables for electricity. That's right.
He wanted wireless energy transfer, right? That was his big dream. He tried it, right? And then, but the problem was, of course, that it couldn't be metered.
Well, General Electric, businessmen who had been funding his research asked, "So, how do we charge people for this?" And he goes,
"Charge?
What? What? Is that a pun?" It was what? No, that you can't. And they shut him down because they were after money. That's all they wanted. Yeah. Clearly, they did want money in return for all the money they'd invested, but he didn't. He'd come up with a ton of inventions and never stopped.
No, that is correct. And he was an experimental scientist, so he didn't have much time for purely theoretical and mathematical science.
That's right.
Because the thing is, I mean, look, math is very useful and very, very good, but But ultimately, can math tell us the truth about the universe? So the answer is no. Okay, in case you're wondering, math cannot tell us the truth.
You couldn't have invented alternating current with math.
Yeah.
To suggest, yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that he did was also work with the frequency of electricity, how many hertz you could drive it at, and found that there was certain magic or sweet spots there where it kind of made more power than it you put in. And you know, that's an over unity thing, which was not meant to be possible, but you kind of, it meets some kind of harmonic and becomes bigger. It's kind of like amplifying sound is the easiest way to think that how that works. So you have a guitar, so you have a chassis of something, and all the notes don't seem to do much unless you hit the resonance of the vessel, and then the harmonizing of the waveform actually makes it more strong a sound.
Correct.
Right, and that's what he was doing with electricity.
And interestingly enough, he actually claimed to have sent electrical signals around the world at multiples the speed of light. Now, Einsteinian physics will tell you that's impossible. Look at my equations.
That's right.
Here they are. Look at, and then
don't make me tap the sign again.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's nice, Einstein, but I did it. Here it is. Show me an error in my experimental setup, right? And show me an error in my measurement. So, and this is really where we are. This is
Tesla's entries in his diary had little time for anyone that was only dealing with math. That's why we've made such a point of this, because it was his temperament.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, unless so again, math can prove anything, right? Even math in this net, it's nice equations. But the thing is this, Dave, and this is really important for everybody to understand. In order for math to work, okay, now math. I'm talking about math now. In order for math to work, we had to invent dark matter and dark energy.
I know.
Okay, because our equations don't work without it. Now, Becky, what do you mean by that? Well, so gravity is too weak a force to explain within the context of our reality. It just is. Okay, just do your own research, but you can take my word for that. And there's a whole lot of other discrepancies that don't make any sense. Like, is the universe expanding? And if it isn't expanding, what the Big Bang and the energy that was released, background radiation, etc., etc. So for all of the observable things to work within our mathematical structure, we had to invent dark matter and dark energy to explain the missing volumes of things.
Also, the expansion of the universe as well had to then be thrown in as well. And all of these imaginary things that aren't measurable and we have no proof that they exist are now in the textbooks.
Yeah, absolutely. So
why? To support a narrative that it was broken.
Yeah. So we've moved away from the ether, which Nikola Tesla was a big fan of, right? Yeah. I just like to call the ether these days modernized quantum form, but it's neither here nor there. And so we have to understand that the structure we have built, right, the structure that explains our reality can only work within the mathematical confines that we created with things that we made up.
That's right.
Now, look, I'm not taking away things from scientists. Look, people are working really hard, but what's really hard for a lot of people to acknowledge is our own limitations, right? Oh, this doesn't work. Don't worry, no, we just, clearly there must be. So clearly we are right, and clearly all the people before us, they were right. Therefore, we're just not seeing something. There's something missing. Dark matter, dark energy, right? Now, Newtonian physics is correct. Newtonian physics is correct. It is verifiably correct on this planet, right? We know the forces and how they work. For every reaction is an equal and opposite reaction, counter reaction, right? Yeah, exactly. So force and counter force. That's true. Kinetic energy, etc., etc. All of these things are measurable. Conservation of energy. Similar with Einstein. Again, we can see the speed of light. We can see black holes. We can see a whole bunch of things. Observer phenomenon, right? That's all true. Now, then you get quantum physics, and you can also see that is true, in complete contradiction to the former two. So what we don't understand is the context of it. We see certain sections and we can explain them, and then we go, okay, great. So this is true. then we say it is true forever. We say the speed of light is true forever. It's the speed of light is the speed limit for the universe. That's a statement. Is it true? Well, maybe not.
Because we've not actually measured the speed of light in deep space. We can't.
That's another interesting thing.
Not
right?
yet. Yeah.
Now, I read an interesting article recently in a scientific publication which said, are the laws of nature, like physics, chemistry, etc., the same all over the universe?
That's
or
right.
Or are they specific, like the one we have here in our neighborhood? So we've got certain sets of natural laws that apply to us, right? Whatever they are, gravity, etc. But, says the article, can we infer from that it's the same everywhere else? So the answer is no.
That's right.
We cannot.
We haven't
we
been
can make a
anywhere
guess.
Else.
No, but even on this planet, there are fluctuations in gravity.
That's
which are
true.
easily enough explained, but they are, right? They are. And not only that, we know that the speed of light is not a constant. Well, Mackie, it's not true. Yes, it is. Because if you come near a massive gravitational object, like a black hole, a neutron star, whatever, light slows down. In fact, light stops.
That's
in
right.
its tracks.
Yep.
Right? That's called the event horizon.
It can't escape the gravity, the gravitational forces of the black hole.
Cannot. In fact, what we do know is this: inside a black hole, all laws of nature, as far as we understand them, completely break down. Okay, so there are things within the universe that don't play by the same rules as the rest of the universe, or at least our little section of it. So it is really. Go on.
I tried to equate that to a real life example, Mackie, and that is if you had a calculator in your hand and you were trying to work out what happens inside, if you were inside the black hole theoretically, and you had a calculator, everything you did would come up with an E on the calculator. Doesn't matter what you tried to do, it would come up with an E.
Yes.
That's an error state.
That's a very good way. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
There isn't a way to calculate
that's
it.
really good.
That's all there is. We don't understand it, not simply because it's theoretical, but because if light can't escape, what is actually going on the other side of the event horizon? What would it look like? These are once at the top of the show, Mackie said, the more you learn, the more questions you have. So the more questions that get answered, the more questions you have. That's absolutely where we're at. But the problem is when someone predicts what it's going to be and sells books and then becomes an authority, and then that happens to be the narrative, like string theory, because everyone just liked the terminology. As string theory, we've not found any strings. There isn't any strings. There aren't any. We've not found any, and we've smashed some atoms and found nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
We can't even guess what's going on there.
Again, about 2,500 years ago, there was a guy called Socrates. Not Socrates.
Socrates.
Excellent adventure. Let's get Socrates. Socrates, he was a philosopher, thinker, in Athens, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
They produced a lot of those. And there was an oracle of Delphi. This is a lady sitting on a bunch of volcanic fumes having visions. And she was asked, and she apparently got things right, which is interesting. But she was asked once, well, who's the smartest guy around? And she said, Socrates. And he said of himself, look, the one thing I know for sure is that I know nothing. Because
that's right.
Even though he was a smart fellow, had great insight and a whole bunch of other things, he understood the limitations. Because a certain thing. I mean, we all know stuff. And that's great. And we love that we know stuff and we can talk to other people about it. That's why people like sports. That's why people like the movies and other things. They can just talk about it. Reality TV, that's something you can actually know about, and you sound like you know about it. But in reality, though, we know very little and we understand less. And that's okay. We're just learning all the time, right? And it's good to learn. But it's very hard to acknowledge. And Socrates, eventually, he was actually killed. He was given, I don't know if you heard this.
You know too much. Yeah. I know that the poison's in the vessel with the pestle.
That's one of my favorite. I love Danny Kaye. I love Danny Kaye. I said it on air. I love Danny Kaye.
And that such and such had the brew that was true. I forget the other part.
That's right. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go and watch The Red Pimpernel. the Scarlet Pimpernel with Danny Kaye. No, but essentially he was accused of corrupting the young,
Yeah.
etc., etc. And rather than killing him, he was given, I think was it hemlock? I might be wrong, but he was given a poison anyway, the poison chalice, and then he was asked to drink it, which he did. So effectively being executed by suicide. But the point is,
sorry,
that
Becky,
the people
I found the quote.
I
The pellet with the poisons in the vessel with the pestle, the chalice from the palace has the brew that is true.
That is true. I so love that. Please, everybody out there, this is your task for today. Go and watch a Danny Kaye movie. The Scarlet Pimpernel, if you can. Go on. They should be free now, right? They should be free.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Whatever.
I'm pretty sure they're free to watch. But look, the point that we're trying to make here is that we're living in a very complex and hard to understand universe that doesn't make any sense at all. We like to make sense of it. We like to feel secure, but we need to ask the questions. We need to push the envelope. And all of those of you that are interested in the UFO and UAP phenomenon, you can now hold your head high and say, no, it's a real thing. It's a phenomenon we should seriously investigate. We should spend time and money on it. We should sensibly discuss it. We shouldn't be like any armchair debunker saying, oh, it's all nonsense. Look at me knowing stuff. And knowing very little in the process. So debunking
I read the heading.
has taken a huge hit. Right?
I read the heading, Nicky. I know all about it.
Right? It's nonsense. It's not. It's balderdash, I say.
That's actually in reference to probably a 300 paragraph discussion between Mecky and I and another fellow. It was hilarious. Anyway,
it was. But I have to say, the fellow ended up proving my point.
I know,
by sending me to a link and saying, "See, here it is," and I read through it because that's what I do. And the link actually made my point, and after that there was silence.
That's right. I haven't seen or heard from that fellow for a long time. So you're getting back to the case we're pitching. All right. Yes. So all of what we know is probably not even a scratch on the surface of what true knowledge there is to learn out there. Like every time we hit these different peaks, like I said, Newtonian, Einsteinian. That's a new word. That's a new one for even today's show. Or the quantum world. Every time we hit one of these little pinnacles, we think we know everything there is to know. And I have to put this back, Mecky, to my grandmother saying that when trains were announced to be able to go at 18 miles an hour, the thought was that all of the air would be sucked out of the carriage and everyone would suffocate. Of course, we know that's not the case. Yeah.
Well, unless of course it was, and we're all dead.
We're all dead, and Australia is fake. We're all crisis actors. With each one of those pinnacles, Mecky, we thought we knew everything, and we don't, and we really don't. And Socrates was right all along. And the more you know, the less you know. And I think that if we go, I'm going to use the word blustering. I used it in the last hour. If we go blustering into science, believing we know everything, then that's when we make all the mistakes. And I think if there was a larger narrative, I'm even going to claw us back closer to the narrative of the show. If there was a greater narrative, which was controlling, well, all of those need to know single points of contact along all of the countries of influence, let's put it that way, right? On the current side or the good side or whoever need to know, if they were all read in to there being a civilization already living here on this planet, maybe it was the Greys, maybe it was the Norwegian types, right? Not from Norway, but the ones with the blonde hair and the blue eyes and the velvety red capes that I saw. If we had already contact with extraterrestrials or those Terrans, I'm going to call them, that already live here. What about in that Russian lake, Mickey, in that freshwater lake where there was meant to be
Lake Baikal,
amphibious human, like bipedal people, right? With fins living there. Or if you're a Phil Schneider, where they've got underground bases on the planet hidden away from us. It's kind of Star Trekky, where the Overwatchers were, just had, hologrammatic, rock faces, but there was true, caverns they could overwatch the people. If this was really going on and we weren't need to know, and those who were need to know knew all about it, they're not going to tell us anything. That narrative is going to be theirs and not ours. All of the things we're doing, as long as it doesn't interfere with them on the planet we share with them, if that's the case, unless it's the moon, right? And because it's a little tiny hop, and you could go about in a little tiny, 30-foot craft, 10-meter craft. You could fly between the moon and the Earth, no dramas, right? Because probably there's a lot of those sightings. But the Tic Tac was brand new. The Tic Tac was a different kind of tech. Maybe they're newcomers. Maybe there's so many different species out there. The universe is teeming with them. And maybe it's a holiday destination, right? Maybe they're scientifically curious. Don't even know. But my problem up until this year was that seeing something meant ridicule. Seeing something meant you had to keep it to yourself. And as we all know, keeping something bottled up to yourself is a really bad thing mentally. It takes a lot of courage. Probably the best word to, not political courage, because that's usually death. But it takes a lot of courage to tell people about it, that you felt like you were suffering alone, but then you discovered there's, cases like John E. Mack discovered there's cases all around the world. Identical stories. How can they be all identical? He was a skeptic, then a believer. The guy that was looking after Project Blue Book, Hynek.
Yes.
He was a skeptic, then a believer.
Yeah. Yes.
The more you look into this, the more you discover there is an abandonment of legitimacy coming from above on this topic. Up until this year. This year is the game changer. Russia had already done it. Mexico had already done it. England had already released all its stuff, but still kept, those last few playing cards to itself, where it wasn't truly admitting that there was a thing going on. Now it's out in the open. It's there. For all of the people, Mickey. Yeah, it is. And now I had a call with the Tuggerah Lakes UFO group this afternoon. And one of the questions was, how do we feel about this information where there's little tiny portion of disclosure? Little portion of disclosure. Yeah. It's not even a grain of sand on the planet, right? But it's enough for everyone there to agree that they feel so much better about themselves, knowing that they're not crazy.
Well, look, that is if that's the only purpose it served, okay, then I'm good with it, right?
Yeah.
But you know what I find interesting though, this is people that are just general people. Like I'm not dissing anybody. I really am not. But we spoke about this over the last 20, 30 years. We've created people, a vast section of our society now that is completely disinterested, has no attention span, and wouldn't really be
what were you
taken
talking
aback
about?
By disclosure. No, we're talking about the disclosure that has happened. Exactly. Oh, sorry. But it's really distressing to me, because if you had made this kind of announcement in the 50s or 60s, there would have been such an uproar. It would have been news for months. It wouldn't have left the news cycle. It just wouldn't, right? But now, because you know what it is though? It is the the overabundance, the veritable tsunami of media we're now exposed to. I mean, remember Back to the Future, and I think the third one or the second, not the second one, when Marty goes to the future and sees his son.
Yeah.
And his son goes to his room and there's like 20 TV screens, and he switches them all on right at the same time. That's where we are. We're being bombarded with content, and most of it completely pointless and just there to distract you. But there it is nonetheless. And once in a while, a nugget comes through that is true and important, but we can no longer distinguish.
We can't even
what is
consume
important,
it.
what is good.
That's right.
No, we can't. It is too much. I mean, the only reason I guess you and I keep on top of it is because, well, I don't sleep a lot. That's one.
Neither do I.
But secondly, we've got certain filters. I mean, we grew up with this.
Yeah.
We were born before the information age. We saw the evolution. We work in it, you and I. We see what has happened. We've always kept up to date with tech.
Yeah.
And we understand content. We understand truth to some extent. Not the truth, but levels of truth and levels of deception. Because we had proper education. We were challenged, etc., etc. So these days we weren't part of a society that gives you a trophy for participating. If I didn't come first, second, or third, I got nothing.
That's right. It means I had to work harder next time.
Bingo. And so we have softened the brain tissues of a couple of generations of people. No, not everybody, but it's a general trend that I see. I mean, why on earth would you watch reality TV, a show like the Kardashians? And I'm not hating on them specifically. There's much worse out now. I mean, TikTok.
Maths.
Right? I mean, some of it is funny, sure enough. But, God.
Married at first sight. God help me.
Married at first sight. What? I mean, there's other thing. I mean, it's astounding. We are voyeurs. I get that. Human beings are voyeurs. Yeah. They like peeping toms, and they like to see. I get that. I understand.
I watch a TV show, Mickey. I watch a TV show that shows other people watching TV and reacting.
Yeah, isn't it? It's Google. It's called Google Box.
Gogglebox.
Gogglebox. Yeah. Look, I've never watched it, but I mean, as I understand it, you are looking at people that are. That's all you do. You're looking at people that are watching a TV program, right?
And yes, that's it.
Correct?
That's right.
What is that? That is a TV programmer's ultimate dream. I was going to say another word.
I know. It's rated G, right? Yeah.
But it is. But it's. I mean, how mindless can you get? It's. I mean, you just videotape yourself watching TV and watch that. It's the same thing. I don't understand it anymore. Dave, I don't get it.
Yeah,
infotainment, I understood, right? Infotainment, make the news entertaining. Okay, all right. And then I also understand certain realities like Survivor. Okay, there's a game show. I understand it. But now there are these shows which have no content. There's actually no content at all. There's nothing that you can take away from, right?
No,
there's just nothing. It's just it runs. And then your life is no better and maybe no worse.
Let's consider that the media has eaten itself.
Yes.
All right, because they're showing themselves doing the thing that they did. Right, they're showing us on them, and we're watching us watching them. It does. Honestly, I thought Big Brother was an interesting psychological experiment. Yes. Sociological experiment, maybe, right? I thought that was interesting. 7 seasons in, I didn't get past, I think, the second or third one. I just felt that they were making something of something intentionally to cause drama. Their determination, the drama sold. Is hard, right? It's hard for us if they're trying to be the designer to make more drama, and that whole Survivor thing. I don't get it. There's no surviving in it at all. It's just a game show. Yeah, if you want to watch Survivor, then survival things, then you would probably lean towards Naked and Afraid. But there's still they don't leave them alone and wait for them to come out only to find their hideously, chewed on bodies from some predation, right?
We found a femur and some flesh.
Yeah, discover that, weeks later. They don't do that. They film the whole thing, and they're obviously eating chocolate bars and cooking food in front of them and stuff. These poor people don't get to eat, but that's actually surviving. Look, I've come, Meki, maybe full circle on this. So this is what our media does now. The news cycle's too short to even consume anything. The visions of our future, we've reached it now, I think. All I do now is watch YouTube. It's not even, it's nothing, right? Outside of the research we do for the show. My whole hobby is to sit down and watch YouTube. And that's all. Why is that all I have? It's like that time, Meki, when I wandered into the part of the supermarket where there were just tomatoes. And I thought to myself, they are really shiny. I remember thinking these words. And it was only then that I realized that I'd been manipulated by this supermarket and its subliminals.
Mm-hmm.
And for no other reason. I didn't buy them. I didn't want any, right? But I stood there looking, going, they are shiny, and realizing that must have been the messaging behind me getting to there, finding my path. Now, the socialization of our media now is no longer a single voice commanded by the government. It's more, global initiative now, and I'm making happy little Vegemites everywhere, Mackie. Right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So what we've done with this disclosure, and we've kind of just made some people happy. The others didn't even care, right? The rest of the planet already assumed that they existed anyway. From all of the other movies and media we've seen over all these years. Yeah. And it was like, what's that? It was meh. Meh was their response.
Yeah.
Don't care. And with our heightened awareness with all these lockdowns, and that was the best we could come up with, was meh.
It's astounding. It surely is. But it was also a litmus test in many ways. Right? It was a small enough incident to make public. It was many years ago and all that. But the complete almost disinterest of the public. Mm-hmm. It didn't even make it much into the news cycle, to be honest, right? Oh yeah, the TikTok is real. We don't know what it is.
60 Minutes did a show on
it. Oh
yeah, right.
Yeah, but again, there wasn't this undercurrent, this need to know by the people. Hey, we want to know more. Can we investigate it? Spend the money there. Don't spend another $1.6 trillion on whatever. But no, we didn't get that, and we didn't get it because we have created a populace that is now disengaged in many ways, right? Interested really only in tomorrow, the next game show. And this is due to the fact that our stresses, our world stresses, are so, and the ultimate, what is keeping our minds occupied? It's all the wrong things. I don't talk about Elohim and the Watchers. Because, listen to the hypothesis, okay, and you will come to it. But I can tell you, in this
2 weeks,
get a lot of hate. I'm going to have to say it. Thanks, Acid. There's something I'm going to tell you. What it boils down to. One of the things it boils down to, what in the 40 years since I've done this research or been interested in this kind of subject, one thing I know fairly certain is this system of things, this reality matrix, if you want to call it that, is run by the great adversary. Okay, the great adversary, not the great architect, as it were. Okay, there is another layer beyond this, maybe many layers, where the actual reality is, where we should be at home, and this is the adversary's system of things. Okay. So this is where we are with this, and Yahweh Elohim, Adonai, right? Not my buddy. I know I get a lot of hate. I don't care, but this is what my research has shown me. Okay, if you want to get out of this, you have to acknowledge where we are and what it is we're in. will not be able to get out of it unless you don't. And for the last few thousand years, every manner of wool has been pulled over our eyes. I can tell you that. And this whole, red herring around UFOs not being real, etc. And making people doubt themselves. Even that's just another way to keep us occupied, to doubt ourselves and doubt the nature of reality. We are fully engaged in this reality. We are, so therefore we have to make the best of it. But we also need to understand it's a limiting reality. Okay. So that's why you won't hear me talk about those fellas. And we have spoken about the Igigi and the Anunnaki, on which this is all based, by the way, right?
Yeah.
So the Watchers, in fact, the Gregorian order, right, it takes its name directly from the Igigi. And if you follow the evolution of the name, you will find that the Igigi are also synonymous with the giants or gigantes of ancient times.
That's right.
Okay. So you really have to do the research to understand. I suggest go to the original sources. Go and read the translations, many translations if you need to, of the ancient Sumerian and Babylonian texts and any other ancient texts you can get your hands on. No, I'm not saying, go and learn the cuneiform. That's, obviously too much. But if you find good translations, get a few and try to distill the gist out of it for yourself. Because translations will vary. There will be variations in the translations. If you put your stock in many in things that have been translated many times, simplified many times, then you're already lost. You're already lost.
All meaning is lost when you go through a couple of translations. Just a single one.
We spoke about it.
Yeah, that's right. A single translation from one language to another doesn't take the subtlety of examples and situation awareness.
Yeah.
So you describe something as good as I'll use it again. The born in a dead man's town. Just by translating that into another language, they may not understand the concept of being born into a town where there isn't anything for you. I think that's really important, and it's missed. You can translate something 1,000,000 times. Play with Google Translate, and good luck with that with some songs, right? But knowing what it does to the context of the conversation, I'm surprised there's anything left. If that's
yes, you're right.
Yeah,
100% correct.
Yeah. Look, find any text that you like and put it through translation too many times. In fact, I've got an example where I did it through every language that the text has been, from Sanskrit to English. And the 7 languages that it went through to get there. And there's no meaning left from what the original translation is.
And that's without a bias. So this is just a translation software that tries its best to get, the meaning of the words across. That's what it does. Not the meaning of the meaning, which, pardon my double Dutch here, but the meaning of the words, right?
Yeah.
So and that's really critical to understand. Another example I gave you guys last week was, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." Now, in the original translation, that actually translates to a mixer of poisons, rather than a witch. And not really talking about witchcraft or paganism specifically, but rather the poisoning of people. And fair enough, you don't really want too many poisoners in your society. It's not a good idea. You don't have much society.
Why?
I know,
She's
right?
a witch.
She's a witch. How do you know?
She turned me into a newt. I got better.
She dressed like a witch. You dressed me.
They dressed me like this.
Oh, that's funny. Now, we got a few more minutes. I do want to take, selfishly, a quick moment to let everybody know there's going to be a new show on Revolution Radio Tuesday and Thursday, 7 a.m. 1 hour. It'll be Dave and I, whenever Dave can make it, that is. 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, United States. That's 10 p.m. Australia time at the moment, and we'll probably go to, I think, 11 p.m. once we go to daylight savings in the States, or reverse it rather. So it's called Plato's Cave, 7 a.m. Tuesday and Thursday, 7 a.m. on Studio 8, if you guys want to tune in. Only 1 hour.
Nice, man.
There you go. There you go. It's hopefully
look at that.
It'll be interesting. Look at that. Look at that.
Well, that didn't fill the whole 2 minutes we had left.
No, it sure didn't. No, but again, look, Dave and I know what we believe and we know what we think to be true.
Mm.
I hope you can come to a similar place. Of course, you're always open to change and always open to people telling you, new things that might change your mind. But Dave has experienced things himself very much so, and I really wanted to talk a lot more about that. Maybe we can do some of that next time.
Yeah, it's all right.
When we look back, because we're going to look back next show. We're going to look back on the last 10 years, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then show 500, we get into the hypothesis. But next, maybe bring our own personal experiences into it.
That'd be good.
Next week. So tell you what we've seen, what we experienced, the weird things, the strange things, the things that you probably don't want to tell people about, and we will tell you about some of the things that people have told us.
Absolutely. And this has been David Meckie's Shiny Side Out, episode 498. And stay tuned for Jer Bear's After Hours program. It's an awesome show. And we'll see you next week. And in the meantime,